So I would love to start off with talking about your story with fame and success. I know you've talked a lot about that in the past as well. What has kept you balanced and humble throughout this journey? And what's like the advice you have for millennials nowadays with handling fame and success? Like how to go about this, especially in this age?
Success in what, in general? I mean, what are you referring to? Success in what way?
Just like that whole idea of how we're thriving for recognition and fame and wealth and just attention through social media or through our careers.
Well, the reality, you have to tune into reality. And the reality is that Maharaj-ji is doing everything. I remember Mr. Tiwari, who was one of his great old devotees, when something good happened, he said, he could make a stone do it. He doesn't need us. He just, by his grace, he allows us to, but he's allowing me to do this. So, I mean, mostly people have the delusion that they're really doing something, and they're identified with the ego. And I'm the same way, but I was with him for about 2.5 years, and it's been over 50 years ago. So there's a kind of a ripening process that happens where, over time, the delusions that we have about life tend to fall away if we keep on the path. And the spiritual path is very interesting. It doesn't happen somewhere else. It's not about getting somewhere else or being someone else. It's about finding out who we are. And that means there's a tremendous importance to doing regular practice, spiritual practice. One has to calm one's mind. One has to open one's heart. One has to begin to overcome jealousy and pride and anger and fear. One has to work with these things. Otherwise, they keep pushing us around. So, regardless of what your position is in the world, what you do, what you don't do, spiritual practice is very important. And trying to open to that grace that is always flowing, but we don't pay attention. So all we have to do is try to remember to pay some attention, but that's very hard, very hard.
Yeah,
So,
and that's
but
where the guru
that's why,
comes in.
yeah, that's why spiritual practice is so important. A little bit, regularly. It has to be regular. You have to, we're born, we develop all these habits of thinking and what we think about ourselves and the stories that we tell ourselves all lifelong about ourselves. So if we're going to find a way to free ourselves of those things, we have to develop new habits. Otherwise, the old habits will just never die. And they keep pushing us around. So little by little, we have to begin to calm our minds down a little bit. That's a major thing. And in fact, Maharaj-ji said, if you bring your mind to one point, you'll see God. Mm-hmm. Now, seeing God and being God are two different things.
Yeah.
But, I'll settle for the first one for sure.
Yeah,
but even so,
I know.
it's 50 years he said that. Is my mind at one point? No way. So it's your whole life has to be transformed. And you have to start developing a new way of thinking about yourself and life in general.
Yeah. And now let's go to your guru and my guru, Neem Karoli Baba, also known as Maharaj-ji. So the world knows him as a mystic and saint and enlightened being, but who is Maharaj-ji to you? How did you feel in his presence in the 70s?
Well, the immediate most powerful feeling that we had being with him was of being in the presence of unconditional love. Love that doesn't come and go. He never judged us. We were completely crazy. We come to India, we didn't know anything about Indian culture, about this or that, but he opened his doors to us and let us in and really, despite knowing everything about us, loved us unconditionally and loves us still unconditionally. And he loved everybody unconditionally. But each person had their own, it's almost like each individual had their own Maharaj-ji. Because you could be in a room with 25 people, and then he would send everybody away. If you got together and told the story of what happened in that room, you would have 25 completely different stories. He said, what? He didn't say that, he said that. No, he didn't, he said that. What are you talking about? Because he used to say, I have the keys to the mind, he used to say. Whoa. And then he would tease us, he'd say, I could turn your minds against me. And he'd laugh, we'd say, Baba, don't do that. And he'd laugh. But really, he was fully aware and fully in control of what we were experiencing. And that's extraordinary. I mean, this is not just a guru. This is not just a saint. This is a great siddha. This is someone who, he doesn't teach, he just changes you. He just rearranges your stuff. And that's a very unique situation. So the feeling we had was being completely at home, completely accepted as who we are, as we are. We didn't have to wear the same clothes. We didn't have to act the same way. Each individual was getting what they needed all the time.